What if the last ruler of Egypt's Third Dynasty wasn't he, the name you've heard, but a shadow almost erased from history? Meet Khaba. His pyramid lies unfinished beneath the sands, and his name survives on fewer than 20 objects. Was he truly the dynasty's final king, or just a ghost slipped between the lines of history? Tonight, we follow the faintest clues in an abandoned monument, scattered inscriptions to uncover a mystery that could rewrite the dynasty's ending. If Khaba closed the Third Dynasty, why did his story vanish? Welcome back to Decoding History and Science, where we uncover the forgotten stories of our past and bring ancient mysteries to life. Tonight, we dive into the shadowy world of Egypt's Third Dynasty, a time of innovation, ambition, and power struggles. You've probably heard of Djoser, the king behind the famous Step Pyramid. But fewer people know the name Khaba, a ruler who may have closed this dynasty, and yet is nearly lost to time. Why is Khaba so important? Because his story challenges what we think we know about the rise of Egypt's pyramid builders. His reign is whispered through half-finished monuments and rare inscriptions. Some Egyptologists argue he was the last king of the dynasty, while others debate if he even truly ruled. And that debate could reshape how we understand the very foundations of ancient Egyptian history. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, we'll uncover Khaba's mysterious pyramid, his scarce artifacts, and the theories that surround his vanishing legacy. By the end of this video, you'll see why this forgotten pharaoh might hold one of the biggest secrets of ancient Egypt. And trust me, you'll never look at Egypt's early kings the same way again. Chapter 1. The World of the Third Dynasty. To understand Khaba's mystery, we first need to step back into the world of Egypt's Third Dynasty. This was more than 4,600 years ago, a time when kings were experimenting with stone, testing the limits of architecture, and shaping traditions that would last for millennia. At the start of the dynasty, Pharaoh Djoser revolutionized Egypt with the Step Pyramid at Saqqara, the very first large-scale stone monument in human history. Imagine it before Djoser. Kings were buried in simple mud-brick mastabas. But suddenly, Egypt leaps into the age of pyramids. His architect, the legendary Imhotep, creates a masterpiece that still towers over the desert today. But after Djoser, the dynasty grew unstable. Kings like Sekhemkhet and others began ambitious pyramid projects, many of which were abandoned or left unfinished. The evidence suggests short reigns, possible internal conflicts, and rapid changes of power. It is in this shifting, uncertain landscape that Khaba appears. His name surfaces faintly, as if history itself was trying to erase him. But was he the dynasty's final ruler, simply one of its forgotten kings, lost in the shuffle? To answer that, we need to explore Khaba's greatest mystery, the pyramid he may have left behind, hidden under the sands of Zayat el. Chapter 2. The Layer Pyramid of Khaba. Rising quietly from the desert, at Zoyat el-Arian lies a strange, unfinished monument known as the Layer Pyramid. From a distance, it looks like a mound of rubble. But up close, you see its unique design built in horizontal stone layers rather than smooth angled sides. Archaeologists believe this unusual pyramid may belong to Khaba. Why do they think so? Because artifacts with Khaba's name were found nearby stone bowls inscribed with his royal shipwreck. These rare objects tie him directly to the site. Yet, the pyramid was never completed. No burial chamber has been found, no treasures, no mummy, just a massive abandoned shell in the desert. Scholars argue that Khaba died suddenly, leaving the pyramid unfinished. Others suggest political turmoil cut his reign short, forcing work to stop. Either way, the monument reflects both ambition and mystery, a king who aimed to follow in Djoser's footsteps but never reached the same glory. But here's the puzzle: if Khaba truly built this pyramid, why is his name almost erased from Egypt's king lists? Why does his story survive on fewer than 20 artifacts in the entire world? The answer might lie in the debate over his very identity, because some Egyptologists believe Khaba wasn't Tejas Khaba, but another ruler entirely. Chapter 3. The Identity Debate. Was Khaba Sneferka or Huni? Here's where Khaba's story becomes even stranger. Ancient Egyptian king lists like the Turin Papyrus and the Abydos list barely mention him, if at all. Instead, they record names like Huni, who is often considered the last ruler of the Third Dynasty. So, where does Khaba fit in? One theory suggests that Khaba and Huni are actually the same person. The idea is that Khaba might have been a throne name, while Huni was a birth or personal name. If this is true, then Khaba was not forgotten at all. He was simply remembered under a different title. Another possibility: some Egyptologists think Khaba might be Sneferka, another shadowy figure mentioned in scattered inscriptions. Sneferka's reign is equally mysterious, and some argue that the layer pyramid could belong to him instead. Imagine this to pharaohs nearly lost to history, their names mixed up over thousands of years. Could the layer pyramid actually be their shared ghost? But here's the twist: whether Khaba was Huni, Sneferka, or an entirely separate ruler. His presence at the very end of the dynasty suggests something important. Egypt was at a turning point. A transition was coming, one that would lead to the greatest age of pyramid building the world has ever seen. To understand that shift, we need to look at what came after Khaba, the dynasty that followed, and how his mysterious reign paved the way for the giants of the Fourth Dynasty. Chapter 4. From Khaba to the Fourth Dynasty. The rise of the Great Pyramid-era Khabas, reign whether short, forgotten, or hidden under another name, marks the twilight of the Third Dynasty. Soon after, Egypt entered one of its most glorious chapters, the Fourth Dynasty, the age of the Great Pyramids. Khaba was indeed the last ruler of the Third Dynasty. Then his unfinished layer pyramid was a bridge between two worlds. On one side, experimental stone monuments, fragile power, and rulers whose names nearly vanished. On the other, monumental perfection, true pyramids like those of Sneferu, Khufu, and Kafur, which still dominate the Giza Plateau today. Some scholars believe that the lessons learned during Khaba's reign from his unfinished projects directly influenced the innovations of the Fourth Dynasty. The trial and error of the Third Dynasty gave birth to the precision engineering of the Great Pyramid. So ask yourself, without Khaba's mysterious chapter, would Khufu's Great Pyramid have ever risen at all? Khaba, then, might not just be a forgotten king. He could be the silent link, the missing piece in the chain that led Egypt from its first pyramid experiments to its most iconic monuments. But here's the question that lingers. If Khaba was so important, why does history try so hard to erase him? Chapter 5. Why was Khaba forgotten? This is the heart of Khaba's mystery. Why was his memory nearly erased? In ancient Egypt, kings built pyramids not just as tombs, but as eternal symbols of their power. Yet Khaba's monument lies incomplete, his name scattered on fewer than 20 surviving artifacts. Something doesn't add up. One explanation is simple. His reign may have been very short, perhaps only a few years. Without time to finish his pyramid or leave behind grand temples, his legacy quickly faded. Another possibility is political turmoil. Power struggles, rival heirs, or internal conflict might have cut his reign short, leading later dynasties to downplay or even erase his rule. There's also the possibility of intentional erasure. In ancient Egypt, kings who were seen as failures or who lost power disgracefully were often omitted from official records. If Khaba's pyramid was abandoned and his rule weak, later rulers may have had little reason to preserve his memory. But ask yourself this: what if Khaba wasn't erased because he failed, but because he mattered too much? Could his identity as Huni or Sneferka have been absorbed into new royal stories, leaving his own name to vanish? Whatever the reason, Khaba's shadowy legacy reminds us how fragile history can be. One unfinished pyramid, a handful of objects, and a question that still challenges Egyptologists today: was Khaba the last king of the Third Dynasty, or a forgotten ruler lost in the sands of time? And now it asks time to bring this mystery full circle to see how the story of Khaba delivers on the promise of our journey tonight. So who was Khaba, the mysterious figure whose name flickers at the edge of history? Was he the final ruler of the Third Dynasty, guiding Egypt toward its age of pyramids? Was he Huni under another name, or Sneferka reborn in stone? Or was he simply a forgotten king whose legacy crumbled with his unfinished monument? What we do know is this: Khaba's story proves that history is never set in stone. Even the mightiest civilizations leave behind gaps, mysteries, and unanswered questions. And sometimes those questions are just as powerful as the answers. Khaba may not have left us a completed pyramid, but he left us a puzzle that still keeps historians and archaeologists debating today. And in that way, he continues to rule not through power, but through mystery. The sands of Egypt may have tried to erase him, but as long as we search, Khaba's story will never truly be forgotten. If you enjoyed exploring this forgotten chapter of Egypt's history, make sure to hit the like button. It really helps support the channel. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Khaba was truly the last king of the Third Dynasty, or someone else entirely? And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into history and science. We've got plenty more mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and never stop decoding history.